Sure, our political experts.
Okay. All right, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. The polls are closed. Oklahomans and the candidates in this primary are awaiting the results of the polls are now closed, and we are ready to go.
You've been hitting that refresh on the results page, aren't you? Yeah, to get an idea of what we can expect from the big races, we are joined now by Andy Moore from Let's Fix This and Pat McFerrin from CMA Strategies. Welcome to you both. You guys are experts in all of this, and this feels like a really big day for Oklahoma.
No, it's a landmark election for the state. This is the first open governor's race in 8 years, and really one of the first times that it's, almost certain that it's a Republican Party in such a dominant position where it is today. And so the primaries are even more important today than I think they ever have been.
Talk about a crowded race. What did that do, do you think, to voter turnout, Andy? Did that encourage more people to come out, or were they just overwhelmed by all of it?
Yeah, based on the early vote, it looks pretty similar to how it did in 2018, which was the last time we had an open governor's seat. I think the race is still pretty wide open, though. We've got a hunch on who the front runners might be, but there's been late-breaking news this week, and anything can happen.
Yeah, that hunch. Okay, let me take a wild guess here. We have a Trump-endorsed candidate, Mike Mazzei. If he's going to a runoff, who's your pick to be in that runoff with him?
I expect it to be a Mazzei Drummond runoff.
Okay, what about you, Andy?
I actually agree with Pat. That's my prediction.
You guys, we're all in agreement here. We'll see if you're right. When do you think we might have that answer?
That is a good question. I think it depends on just the speed at which votes come in. Usually by 8 or 8:30, we've got a better idea of what it's going to look like, but who knows?
And with so many candidates and the the threshold for a runoff maybe being so low, it might be a longer night unless those two really distance themselves.
So many candidates in this one, and even in the last week or so, we've seen some numbers flipping around depending on whose polls you're looking at. Talk to me, guys, about what you think this Trump endorsement means. Is it what it was maybe several years ago? And we've also heard maybe one of the candidates, Merrick, has kind of risen up the ranks in the last few days. Are you guys hearing that as well?
Yeah, we are, and I think some of that has to do with an erosion of support for some of the other major candidates, although, again, we'll find out, I guess, later tonight. I think Trump's endorsement, especially in Oklahoma, still matters a great deal. There's a sense that people are waiting for the fever to break. I don't know that we're going to see that tonight, at least not in the governor's race, but we might see that happen in some other races.
And maybe not in Oklahoma.
I would say that the one thing I will say there on the Trump endorsement, it hasn't been as successful in gubernatorial contests and state contests as it has been for congressional and U.S. Senate races. And so we'll see. I think that Oklahomans do want to feel they have a personal relationship with their governor, more so than they do for maybe federal offices. And so we'll see how that plays out here. But still, would I take it over not have it? Yes.
It's still something they were all clearly vying for, and now on the Republican side, we saw it in the advertisements of all of them aligning themselves with the president.
Yeah, and on top of that, when you go to the advertisements and the money spent by these candidates to get into this and just to have their voice heard because it was so packed together so early, do we think, we've seen some things with some of the campaigns where the money spent didn't necessarily correlate to the results that they were looking for, at least in some of that early polling. But what do we think about the sheer amount of finance that was put forward for this campaign?
This had to have been a record-breaking
absolutely,
primary.
and it's a maturation process here in the state of third party or dark money or offshoots of Citizens United court case being involved in the state. And also I think it is this continued belief that who wins the Republican nomination is more likely to be the governor than we've ever had in this state. So all the chips are on the table at the first, and nobody's saving any money for November on the Republican side.
So wait, are you telling me all those ads are just going to shut off after tonight?
All except for 2 of them. Yeah,
So much.
November is going to be a much cheaper time to buy advertising on.
The public really has reacted, I would say, in this election cycle to the barrage of attack ads. It just seemed like far more than usual.
It is. In 2018, the last time we had the open race, there was not a single negative ad run during the primary. It wasn't until the runoff election that there was even one negative ad run.
And I remember the term. Well, I'm thinking maybe of.
The Mitt Cornett and the Bullstead. Yeah, that was
one negative ad that.
But that wasn't until the runoff.
Right.
So this is different.
It is. It's much different.
I know we have, as you guys are continuing to talk, I think we have a live look at Maisie's watch party right now in the Tulsa area. So we want to give you a look at that as we continue speaking. But yeah, Paris Rain, our reporter out there. Paris, can you tell us what's going on at Mike Maisie's watch party?
Yeah, hello, Adam and Wendy. The party just officially kicked off at 6 o'clock, and we actually just heard from Mike Maisie as he's the Republican governor candidate. He let us know after $11 million on this campaign, his goals are still the same: education, taxes, Oklahoma land, government accountability, and high-paying jobs. He let us know as the only candidate who's been endorsed by President Trump that the Maisie agenda and the Trump agenda are relatively close and they align together. So I'll be here all night as this race unfolds. Paris Rain live in Bixby. I'll pass it over to you all at the desk.
Thank you, Paris. Talking about, again, the sheer amount of money going into these campaigns. I have to ask, is it possible, especially as a Republican candidate for governor, can you be successful without being really wealthy?
It doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. I mean, to see these candidates spend $5, $6, $11 million of their own money, I mean, some of them are going to go home empty-handed, and that's a lot of money to offload just to go home empty-handed at the end of the night. But I think, there's a lot of voters who see those numbers and say, this is not real life. Like, I might support them, but they are somehow in a different class than I am. And I think come November, that'll be a very different conversation. The economy will look different. And I think a lot of voters will be saying, is this someone that really has my best interest in mind? Or are they spending, tens of millions of dollars for a position that only pays $150,000-ish a year? That's a little suspicious to a lot of people.
So you talk about that amount, and you said even some of those folks could come out empty-handed, but there are situations in the past, right, where you can lose, maybe not necessarily in a race like this, but you can lose and still win. Like, you can still gain something down the road from that. So is there maybe a part of this that's like, hey, it didn't work out for me this time. Obviously, they all want the big prize, but maybe there's something down the road that could come from that?
Yeah,
trying to claw to anything?
Someone told me one time that's always a good idea to spend $2 million to build name recognition. I don't have $2 million to spend on that, but maybe they're right.
We're not going to see you in the next step.
I don't think any of the candidates that have spent more than $1 million are going to be happy that they're not in the runoff. I mean, I think they'd all look back and say, hey, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have done something else.
It doesn't seem like this is just a fun hobby to just throw money at. It doesn't seem like it's a great time, personally, just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
But perhaps this is good for them.
And to that same token, when you look at the other side, I mean, it sounds like the agreement at the table is you win the Republican nod for this, you got a pretty good shot going down the line. For the Democrat side of this, there are 3 candidates trying to figure this thing out. What would it take, like if we were going to draw up the roadmap for the winner of the primary here to take a solid shot at this thing, what is that going to take?
I mean, I think we see a pretty solid floor for Democrats around 30, 35, maybe 40% on the high end. But that extra 10% or 15% is really tough to get in Oklahoma still. It's a different state than it was 4 or 8 years ago, but it's not that different.
You guys both have Cindy Munson taking the Democratic
I think she'll win
tonight.
it, yeah, without a runoff.
And let's say you work for Cindy Munson's campaign. Let's say you're advising them. Who do you want her to face in that general election?
I don't think you have a full set of information to know. I mean, Gittner Drummond's a proven, fighter pilot, rancher, been through the battles at this level. Maisie has not. So you might tend to want Maisie. But you don't know, can he write another $11 million check? And that becomes the question. But if he's tapped out, that's probably who you want because he hasn't been quite as tested as Drummond has been. And also, if you just look ideologically, while both are considered conservative, they're pro-life, anti-tax, pro-gun, school choice conservatives, Drummond's probably not quite as far to the right as Mazie is. And so if you're trying to build a coalition of 51, that is probably who you want, and you just hope he makes a mistake. And I think most people are pretty confident that Drummond won't. But Mazie
He's
might.
got the experience
yeah,
of
and so
doing
that's,
this.
you know, I mean this, Representative Munson, I'm a big fan of hers actually, even though I'm a Republican. But I've called her the break glass in case of emergency candidate. And so I actually think her best chance to become governor went away when Ryan Walters decided not to run. If someone like Ryan Walters had won the nomination, then yes, she could have been viable.
Republicans would have turned away.
There would have been enough leadership Republicans, and I don't know where Mazie is on that continuum at this point.
Right, if there's a break glass situation
Correct,
here,
correct.
and we might not know that for some time. I do know we have another reporter out, Rob Hagan, at Chip Keating's watch party. That was at the Petroleum Club. How are things there, Rob?
That's right, Wendy. The crowd's building, and so is the excitement. 34 stories high here at the Petroleum Club. Now, in attendance is also the former governor, Frank Keating, which, of course, is Chip Keating's father. Now, this former OHP trooper and former Secretary of Public Safety from 2019 until he resigned in 2020 has built his campaign on the promise to eradicate what he calls Oklahoma's illicit drug crisis. Now, we did speak with him moments ago. We asked him some hard-hitting questions, including what he proposes to do about the data centers so many people at home are against. He's right in the middle on the data centers. He says that we shouldn't shut the door on the opportunity, but we should have safeguards in place. I also asked him what he plans to do about the widespread corruption here that's plaguing Oklahoma. We've seen directors of nonprofit organizations using tax dollars to do surgical procedures, including lip fillers. We've seen state representatives use people's campaign dollars to buy purses and fancy dinners. This is what he had to say.
Well, look, if you watched our debate, the first debate with Nandak, my comment is I'm going to shine the light in on public corruption. I was the chairman to try to look at law enforcement unification for our state, integrating all our state law enforcement agencies. That was going to have a public corruption division as a part of that, and it never got through the legislature. So as a former state trooper, this is something that is obviously very important to me, and we need to shine the light on it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do when I'm elected governor.
Now, Keating has also mentioned that he believes Oklahoma is being governed like a blue state, and he hopes to correct that, because I asked, what did Governor Stitt get wrong? And he said that Governor Stitt has been too neutral in his entire campaign. We're going to keep you updated with more details available. Petroleum Club, Rob Hagan, Fox 25 News.
Right, Rob sharing some fresh sound from candidate Keating there, basically criticizing our current governor, saying he's been too neutral in his time as governor and the state's being governed like a blue state. Is that going to be a winning message?
Well, he's running against the wrong guy because he's not on the ballot tonight. I think we'll see. I mean, the race forward looks a little bit different than it has for the last few months, thankfully, I think, for a lot of voters. And as we march towards November, that's going to be a very different race that might actually be about the issues more than just virtue signaling towards partisan voters.
We saw early on in this primary race, a lot of these Republican candidates were campaigning on those culture war issues. We saw that those have been successful in the past. Are voters sick of that? Are they ready to turn away and say, hey, this isn't the thing that I'm dealing with in my house?
Not Republican primary voters and not Republican runoff voters. That's where their focus is going to continue to be. There's very few. If you look at the state being a state of 4 million people, you're talking about 4 to 5% of the people are going to decide who the Republican nominee is. You know, somewhere between 160 and 200,000 people.
That's really small.
It is. And so that's why you have these culture war issues right at the top. And I don't know if we do have the first results in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us what you're seeing.
That governor's race, we have, this is just early voting, absentee, and it's not even all of it. First 26,000 votes in, have Drummond at 28%, Mazie at 27%, and then Charles McCall at 13%, Merrick at 12%, Chip Keating at 16.
16.
So yeah, I missed him. He was in third, that's really, I think, the order most people expected it to be in.
So those are your top two, the Drummond and Mazie. That's what you predicted. We would be ending the night with those two going to a runoff. And of course, it's very early, just a little slice of votes
not
coming
even
in.
all of the early votes.
But echoing your predictions. We do have a live photo to bring you, video of Merrick's watch party. And so we just mentioned those numbers coming in. Merrick now with, very early voting, but taking about 12% of the vote so far. And if he is speaking, I think we can probably listen in. I'm not sure who is at the stage right now.
But it was really good. So we are going to let Autumn take us into a song after we do the pledge. This is
so they're going to do the pledge. We'll kind of keep running until maybe they get him up on the stage. I do think it's interesting to maybe note with Merrick and talk about a little bit here the results that he's pulled back, even from the early voting, close to about 12%. And as Wendy kind of noted as we started this thing off, there was a little bit of a lift for him as the week has gone on and we kind of made our way through. So maybe the early voting, not necessarily the swell or the indicator necessarily of what his results could be. Do you see him as a potential wild card kind of kicking in as we get more of the return from the day's events?
Yeah, I've put it at around a 10% chance that he gets something here. These early results don't bear that out, because Drummond is so much higher, but I think he had more of an organization ready to participate in the early voting. But there is no doubt that Eric Merrick has been moving up a little bit as the other candidates have gone down.
Who is he appealing to, do
Well,
you think?
it's interesting. He's actually appealing to people that don't like negative campaigns because he hasn't been involved, he hasn't been attacked. And so there are some folks that don't know anything about him because his support is across ideological scales, even though we know that he's arguably the furthest right candidate in the race. He gets support actually from people that the 17% of Republicans that don't like Donald Trump, from the 23% that consider themselves to be moderates. He's doing very well among those groups because they don't have anybody else that's speaking to them. And so the guy that's not speaking against them is who they've migrated to.
They're filling in what they don't know with what they want to know,
Yes.
right?
That's what I think is happening.
That's interesting. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I talked to a Republican voter in Chickasha a couple of weeks ago who reached out and just said, listen, I don't know anything about these guys other than none of them like each other and I don't like any of them. Who's the next best person? And I think that's the kind of voter Pat's talking about, someone who's grossed out, disenfranchised by all the mudslinging and is just looking for someone. They want to cast their vote. They want to find somebody. Merrick might be the only person they know their name or they can find anything from his campaign to let him know how he feels.
Well, if he makes it past tonight, they'll be learning a lot more about him, I'm sure. We do have a reporter out at another watch party. Did you catch it? Oh, it's Gettner Drummond's.
Yep, Devin at Gettner Drummond. So let's check in there. Devin, why don't you tell us what's going on out there? Good evening to you.
Oh, just like everybody else, guys, the crowds are starting to pack in as more people arrive. Also, Gettner Drummond has arrived himself. He's over here in the back corner. He's been shaking hands, meeting with people and some of his supporters that have started to trickle in through the gates. He arrived just about 10-15 minutes ago, and since then, it's just been all smiles for this crew here. Gettner Drummond is the acting attorney general for our state, and he was also one of the first to throw his hat in the ring for the gubernatorial race. He did that back in January of 2025 when he announced his Oklahoma first priorities of cutting back taxes, supporting law enforcement, and education. And so we're just making our way around over.
I think probably done.
All right. Okay. We're sorry about that. It looks like we have some technical issues, but Gettner Drummond has arrived to his watch party in the Tulsa area, so we'll be checking back in as all of these parties are really starting to draw their crowds.
Yeah, and let's move to another position here as we've got this tight race so far in the early results for the governor, for the lieutenant governor. When you get your early voting numbers in, not necessarily so much. We see just a big lead out there with some of the early numbers. Is this what we expected? Do we expect any of this to change as we get more of those results in?
I thought all along that T.W. Shannon would win without a runoff, and right now he's at 53% of the early vote. I will say the David Ostro campaign has spent a substantial amount of money in the last 10 days trying to bring him down below that 50% threshold. I'm not sure much of it was positive toward Ostro. Most of it was negative toward Shannon, especially outside the Oklahoma City and Tulsa media markets. And so I think we'll really want to wait a little bit to see what happens in those outlying areas because of the direct mail that was so negative in those areas.
Was this a case of the Trump endorsement kind of being that golden ticket for T.W. Shannon?
You know, he was actually well ahead before that happened. I mean, this is a guy who served the state as Speaker of the House, has run statewide before, didn't spend millions of his own dollars to do it, but sometimes there is a benefit from that name recognition that you built. And so he had done that. And he ran those campaigns in a way that, you know, for example, he ran against Mark Wayne Mullen last time. Mark Wayne Mullen endorsed him this time.
When you have such a seasoned politician like T.W. Shannon, let's say he does make it to a runoff, is then there a risk because you have so much material to pull from, you know, finding those sound bites that maybe contradict each other? It's easier to pull material when you've got so much of it. Is that going to be his biggest risk, is if he makes it to a runoff?
Well, I think he's going to win without a runoff, but he's going to be so far ahead with a runoff, and there aren't a lot, even if he were in a runoff. I mean, right now he's ahead 53-13.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 40-point lead. If it's 30 points, you know, it's not going to matter. One of the things is lieutenant governor, there are very few donors to a lieutenant governor's campaign because there's not a return on your investment. It's not that the lieutenant governor does a lot of things that people care about. And so it's about personal relationships, and so TW already has those. So I think it'd be very difficult for someone to fund a primary.
It sounds like you've already wrapped this thing up for TW tonight.
Now, in full disclosure, TW is a longtime friend and a client. He and Eccles are the two clients I'm working for that we'll be talking about tonight, but I do think TW will win this.
Well, do you want to talk about Eccles from that race for AG? How's that looking? Have you checked the results?
The early numbers there show Eccles up by 14 points and 57 to 43%. Which is about where we expected to be. My last survey had him up 10 points with a 30% undecided. So if you extrapolate, it's about a 14-point win, and that's where it is right now. And we are starting to get a few election day results in. I haven't had a chance to look and see where those are coming from. I think we have one precinct in.
That's another race we saw a lot of advertising, maybe some of those dark money groups coming in. Any thoughts on the AG's race, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. There was a lot of PAC money coming in on both sides. And the other night I was watching TV and saw two commercials, I think for Jeff Starling, both opposing him. Or excuse me, one opposing him, one opposing Eccles. Neither of those ads were from either of the candidates. So it was just the outside group spending in that. And I think that's been confusing for a lot of voters. Not everyone pays attention to the disclosures at the bottom of the screen. But I think it's going to be a close race throughout the night. I'll be interested to see it. I do want to point out on the lieutenant governor's race, this is a good example of a race where we have to keep in mind that in order to avoid a runoff, you have to have more than 50%. You could get 49% and still go to a runoff, even if you are far ahead of everybody else. I don't know that's going to happen.
You're not ready to give TW the win.
You know, I'm always rooting for the underdog in these kind of things. I think it's interesting. And it also, I think, tells us a little bit about how we vote and how our electoral system works, that just because someone is far ahead doesn't mean they've necessarily won outright.
Are you going to see any impact on the results? Of course, Republicans had always closed their primaries, but this is the first time that independent voters didn't get to vote on the Democratic side. Is that going to have any influence in the numbers we see tonight?
I think it definitely could. I mean, especially in some of the smaller races where, you know, the number of independent voters in a state house or a state senate race might be the deciding factor. I think the race that'll have the biggest issue on is State Question 832, where it's a statewide race, and that's the only thing that independents could vote on this election. And whether or not they showed up for that will really determine, I think, if that gets across the finish line.
All right, we're going to take a quick break as we continue looking at these numbers. We are getting actual election day results right now as we speak, going through them with our political experts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We want to welcome you back into our election night coverage. As we get through the polling that's closed, we want to remind everybody as we're live on YouTube and Facebook, leave your comments and your questions for us. There's never been a more direct line to get your questions answered by the experts that we have with us here tonight. So send us those questions. We can bring them up on air and keep them going as we dig through all of the races and really exciting election night that we've got going on here in Oklahoma.
These guys really know their stuff. Pat McFerrin, a political consultant, analyst. What other titles can we give you tonight?
Oh, that's enough. That's enough.
And Andy Moore, who works with Let's Fix This to really increase voter participation. And you guys really know your stuff, so it's really fun to go over these numbers in real time as they come in. A race that I know a lot of folks are paying close attention to is this race for state superintendent. We will have a new state superintendent after the general election. So let's break down what we've got on the Democratic side, a much smaller field with 2 candidates. Early voting, I mean, this is just really early. We've got some election day results coming in, but you see Janetti Marshall pulling ahead of Craig McVeigh right now by a little bit. We'll keep an eye on that one. The winner of that taking on a long list of Republicans vying for that party's nomination tonight. Is this one that's going to go to a runoff, you think?
Oh, there's no doubt it goes to a runoff.
No doubt. Okay.
Right.
So some big names up there. We've heard a lot from some of these folks. Tony Hazenback and, of course, Adam Pugh, both from the legislature, we've heard a lot from. Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think the education community has been backing Robert Franklin. He's hanging in there right now with just shy of 24%. But I think it'll go to a runoff, and the second place person is really kind of wide open. You've got candidates from John Cox, who's also fairly popular at right now at 20%, James Taylor at 18, and Tony Hazenback at 15, and then Adam Pugh in there at 13. And so it's still early in the night. I know there's a lot of education advocates that are really at home crossing their fingers and toes, hoping that Franklin makes it to the end. Yeah,
the last time we had a race for superintendent, we had the governor's endorsement of Ryan Walters. He did not endorse anyone this time. Is that...
Candidly, I don't know if anybody sought his endorsement this time. The polling I've done shows the governor has about a -5 effect in a Republican primary right now.
Wow.
And so I'm not sure it was really sought out by any of these candidates here. Because 5 points is going to be the difference between making a runoff and not. I mean, because again, the range right now for second place is between 13 and 20 points. And this really is one that there are some geographic aspects here with Adam Pugh representing Edmond, Central Oklahoma. He's known very well. I was looking at the early voting numbers. He's leading almost 2-1 among the early voting absentees in Oklahoma County, but Franklin's leading almost 3-1 over Pugh in Tulsa County. And so there are going to be some real geographic differences. So we might not know this until very late in the night, depending on which county election boards get the results in first.
Is this a position that you think more people are aware of and really paying attention to just because of all of the publicity our former superintendent Walters got?
A lot of Oklahomans definitely are. I mean, I know I have colleagues nationally that knew about Ryan Walters because of some of his antics. Thankfully, that's not at play in this race. And I think that the conversation and the debates around this position this cycle have been more substantial about education and less of those kind of cultural issues.
Yeah, literacy, things like that. So let's turn now to Emma McAndrews. She is at Adam Pugh's watch party. He is among those on the Republican side vying for the party's nomination for superintendent. Emma, how's it going?
Wendy, it is going good. We've got a packed house back behind us here, and we've got state superintendent candidate Adam Pugh with us. Adam, how are you feeling today?
I'm tired, but I'm happy to be here. I got a lot of friends and family here. This is how I started my campaign, over 9 months ago, with just friends and family gathering to make my announcement. And so I'm honored that they would spend another evening with me as we anxiously await the election results.
So what is going through your mind right now as we're starting to see a little bit start to come in?
I'm nervous, obviously, but this is the democratic process. I fought in the United States Air Force. This is a process I fought for because I believe in it. So I'm glad that people showed up and exercised their right to vote. I mean, obviously, I hope that I'm one of the candidates that they chose to support. But I believe in this process. I have a lot of friends that I've served with, both in the House and in the Senate, that are also on the ballot today. And so I'm also just thinking about them. And I know what really every candidate's going through right now. I'm sure there's a lot of different emotions. But really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of good people across the state. I got to meet a lot of them, got to travel the state with a lot of them and get to know them personally. And I'm just very thankful that a lot of great Oklahomans stepped up today to put their name on the ballot.
So why do you think you are the man for the job? There's, like you said, lots of candidates. You think it's going to be a runoff? What are your, thoughts on all of it?
As I've been talking about for several years now, this job is about leadership. I mean, you're leading the Department of Education. We get wrapped around the title superintendent, but really you're the executive director of an agency. And so it's a little bit of a different skill set. I've obviously been involved in education policy for the last 6 years, leading the Senate Education Committee. I've built a lot of really good relationships around the state of Oklahoma. I've learned a lot, spent a lot of time in classrooms, talking to teachers, asking questions, meeting with parents and advocacy groups. But the Department of Education itself, you need an executive level type leader. That's the experience I brought from the United States military. It's what I've done in the business sector, but also knowing how to navigate the legislative process. As the chair of education for the last 6 years, it's really the legislature that funds the appropriations to the Department of Education. They write the laws and create the statutory environment that all schools have to operate in. And so understanding how to not only run that department administratively, but then work with the legislature to get good stuff done for all the kids around the state, serve parents, make sure there's great teachers in front of the classroom every single day. That's a different skill set. It's a different approach to what this role really is, and I think I'm the one that has that resume.
Now, talking about something that it's talked about all over social media when it comes to several different things that happen, is that Oklahoma is at the bottom, very bottom. How do we dig ourselves out of that 50th mark?
Yeah, well, I've always rejected the premise that we're 50th. I mean, we're right here in my hometown in Edmond, Oklahoma. I've got 3 kids in Edmond Public Schools. I'm not getting, Emma, a 50th in the country educational experience, and so that's not been my experience with my kids. But there's a lot of different measurements, and I think people use metrics to tell whatever story they want, and you can manipulate those statistics anyway. What I know is we're not number one, and so every single day we should be showing up to do everything we can. And really the biggest thing is making sure that no matter where a kid goes to school, that they have the opportunity to be all that God's called them to be. And that can mean, here right in Edmond Public Schools, it can mean being homeschooled, it can mean a charter school, a small rural community somewhere, just having great schools and making sure that kids are getting the right skill sets. And then working with communities, working with parents, working with teachers and education leaders around the state, asking questions and learning from them, saying, what do you need from us? How can we be the bridge between the legislature and what's happening inside your classroom? And what type of resources does that take? And understanding that there's other senators that are chairing other committees, and they're fighting for valuable resources as well. It might be transportation. It might be health and human services. It might be, taking care of rural hospitals. And so understanding the legislative process and being able to navigate that, I think, is a critical skill set that we've never had in the role of state superintendent before.
Adam, thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to watch the polls and see how we do. Well, we're live here in Edmond for Fox 25. I'm Emma McAndrews.
Thank you, Emma. We appreciate that. And guys, I just want to ask, as we heard that interview and that response from Adam Pugh there, it is interesting. We talked about the notoriety and how the position has maybe changed a little bit, but also our classrooms have certainly changed. Like since COVID pandemic and things like that, the way that kids do, or sometimes in Oklahoma don't go to school with truancy being an issue. Do you think this has changed the skill set that we need out of the next superintendent? Like, does the application requirements for the skills for the job look different, a lot different now than it did 4 years ago or a couple of years ago?
I think we just want them to do their job. I mean, the skills required is the same as when it was Ryan Walters. He just didn't do the job.
Just stability.
We just want, someone who is stable, who is knowledgeable, who genuinely has the outcome of our students as their top priority, and not trying to score political points or run for higher office. We want someone who's here to serve.
I agree. I think the sense among the voters is they want something that's more administrative rather than political. Yeah. And so I think that's what they'll see here. And I think we saw a campaign that was run that way. We didn't see a lot of people reaching out, trying to motivate the more extreme
It's probably
aspects of the party.
I'm sure a lot of folks were happy with that change in this race. So we'll catch that. We heard Adam Pugh there say he's just hoping to get in the runoff. That's kind of where we're at tonight with so many people in that crowded race. We also, of course, are talking about that state question because it is the only thing many of us could vote on today. If you're an independent voter, you're shut out of the other primary. So let's get to it. This is the question on raising the minimum wage. And as you see right now, the no votes leading early on in the evening at 54% rather to 46. You guys think this is going to change, or is this pretty much what we're going to see tonight?
I think this may be what we see tonight, and this is a good example of how things can change over time. You know, we remember that this qualified for the ballot back in the fall of 2024, and I think supporters expected it to be on the 2024 ballot. But the governor slow played things and moved it to this year, a year and a half later. It is really hard to maintain enthusiasm and to propel a campaign for that long. You run out of money, you run out of energy. And so trying to bring this up, it's a different economic climate right now. Voters are worried about inflation, and the messaging from the opposition saying this is going to contribute to inflation is enough to scare off a lot of people.
Do you agree it's not going to pass?
No, I'm not ready to say that yet. I think it's going to be very close. I'm looking at the details here, and there are no precincts yet reporting. There is early voting, but no precincts from Oklahoma and Tulsa counties, which are the places I expected to have its greatest support. For example, in Oklahoma County, the early voting was 65% yes. In Tulsa County, it was 58% yes. And so we'll see what happens. That was early and absentee votes there. We'll see if that holds. There is for those two metro areas, when most all the counties that are reporting are rural at this point. So this is quite a substantial margin here. So, but I do think it will narrow from where it is. If it's enough for it to pass, I'm not certain.
And it's one of those interesting things because it means so many different things to so many different people, depending on where you're from. The views are all over the place. It is interesting that it is the only thing that independents can really get out there and vote on. Do you think, we know that probably hinders some independent voting or voters from getting out there if they know they're just checking one box, but what do you think that chunk that is missing will contribute to the result that we see here?
That's a good question. I think Pat makes a good point about the geographic representation. And as an independent voter myself, when I voted early on Thursday, I mean, I was in and out in 3 minutes with just this one question. And I do think that there's a lot of interest in this. And we should remember that when Medicaid expansion passed, it passed with between 50 and 51%, just barely 0.5%. And that's all it takes to win. And so this may narrow, and it may be the kind of night that a state question can eke out.
It'll be interesting now to see what the mood is like at the watch party for people supporting the state question. I know our Paige Taylor is at that watch party right now. Paige, are they looking at those early results? Any mood about how this is going to go?
Well, hey guys, we really saw people start to pour in right after 7 o'clock, right after those polls closed. Everyone here is in a very good mood. You can hear the music going. They're all really excited to see these results come in. I'm going to give you a quick peek into kind of what we're seeing here. There's a DJ, there's food. You can see people donning their I voted stickers and even wearing t-shirts for the Say Yes to Raise the Wage. So people are in good spirits here. They're really optimistic about what raising the state minimum wage could mean for workers and just the people who want to see the minimum wage raised here in Oklahoma. This is something that volunteers have been working on for a couple of years now, trying to get this on the ballot, knocking on doors, getting signatures. And so tonight they're kind of all coming together to celebrate that hard work and just watch these results as they come in. And so, yeah, people are just having a really good time here right now. So we'll keep you updated. For now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Paige Taylor reporting on that state question watch party, as we mentioned, with different parts of the state really turning in different results. That's one of those you're going to have to just keep an eye on. Another race that got my attention, when you have an incumbent in a statewide office that is trailing right now in the primaries. We got to talk about it. This is the race for state treasurer. Incumbent Todd Russ falling behind so far in early voting to Sydney Byrd, who is currently our state auditor. What is going on? She came out of nowhere, really, on filing day, had been telling people she was campaigning for lieutenant governor, and then switched to this race. Many people questioned that move, but it seems like people are responding.
No, absolutely. I mean, this really is kind of two incumbents running against each other. If it weren't for term limits on statewide offices, I think most people would have expected Cindy to run for another term as state auditor. But she's had 8 years in office statewide. Russ has had 4. There have been some stories recently about Treasurer Russ and you know, people not being real happy about how he's chose to spend taxpayer dollars and invest those for the pension funds. Cindy Byrd's had really positive press, exposing problems with Tulsa public schools and other places. And so I'm not surprised by this. She had more money, she had better name ID, so this is a pretty predictable type of outcome.
Is this the only incumbent kind of on the line tonight?
Not the only incumbent on the line tonight, but I think, you know, she was running for lieutenant governor, and then once T.W. Shannon got that endorsement of Trump, she saw the writing on the wall and made the jump over to this, which I honestly think makes more sense. It's from auditor to treasurer is a much more related field than auditor to lieutenant governor. I think there's a lot of question about how would she transfer her skills over there. Certainly there's been some issues with tourism and stuff that she's been involved in that would be relevant to the lieutenant governor's spot, but having her move into the treasurer's role kind of keeps it in that accounting finance world, and I think that's really her skill set.
As we make our way through the night and we kind of look at elections like this, and it's just such a different and interesting place to be, because when you look at the Cindy Byrd things, just as a guy who is like sitting at the desk reading every night, it felt like for 8 straight months we were talking about Cindy Byrd and kind of the stuff she was going through, and we didn't really have that with Todd Russ.
She was putting her wins out there,
and
for
big
us
time
to report on.
And on that same token, I don't remember saying Todd Russ's name even just in headlines
and not
once.
Negative
Correct.
either. I mean, we really didn't hear much about him at all until lately, until this campaign. So maybe this is a lesson. Do we have to campaign now when we're in office doing the job? Is that part of the job now, making sure the public knows about our wins?
I mean, yeah, on some level, and this is the case of, like, it used to be that no news is good news, but not in politics, right? Like, this is more of a case of all press is good press. That's not necessarily the case even in politics, but I think that you must be mindful of how you are navigating the press and how you're leveraging it to promote your platform and what you're doing for the state.
Reminding people that you're doing the job.
Part of it is, even if it's not about the job and the press, Todd Russ was not prepared for a race. He still owed himself $250,000 from the last campaign, had not been doing fundraising, thought he was not going to have a race, was not doing the grassroots development, was not doing everything else. So it made it an easier decision for Cindy Byrd to make when she saw somebody who wasn't prepared.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to get off the line when you're starting flat-footed, right? And when we start early on, I keep looking back as the results go, and I keep looking back to the governor's race because I'm just really excited to see how this pans out, especially as we get more results in. And I think the question for me right now, I'm just asking as a guy who just watches these ads and watches these guys throw themselves out there, is it seems like, especially on that Republican side, at least all of our bylines and our major plot points are the same for what these guys want to do. And I know we'll have all this time in the runoff to sort of differentiate, but how do we make the choice? Like, how do we get into this side, like, this is my guy that I want, and how much do we expect for some of that to be like a castle made out of sand when we get into the runoff and get into some of the stuff of substance to see some of these guys potentially wilt and fall apart a little bit?
Well, as Pat told us, they're going to stay on this culture war type thing throughout a runoff as well, because those voters want to see that.
Right. No, and it'll be a smaller turnout in the runoff than there is in the primary. That's 95% of the time. That's what happens. And so you're looking at an even smaller group of folks that will be deciding who that Republican nominee is.
When you hear that, Andy, does that just kind of grind your gears a little bit? When we really just say the quiet part out loud, that it is such a small group of Oklahomans deciding such important things for all of us.
It really does, Wendy. And runoffs are always that way. Typically turnout is sometimes 5, 8, 10% of registered voters, a very small number of people, which means that you must vote in the runoff because your vote counts so much more. You have a disproportionate size influence over the outcome. I think here, what I'm looking at now and starting to think through is for these other candidates that won't make it in the runoff, the McCalls, the Keatings, the Merricks, if they don't go the way, where do those voters go? Who do they decide to get behind?
Is there a clear path for them?
I mean, I think it depends on the individual voter. If you've got Mazie, you've got Drummond, they're both going to try to be very conservative. but one of them is going to feel more authentic than the other. And I think those voters who are looking for the most conservative candidate are going to go behind the one they feel is the most authentic conservative.
The other thing I think will happen here is I think we're going to see a level of scrutiny on Mike Mazzei that we haven't seen before. And he's relatively new. Until the Trump endorsement, he was not considered a top-tier person. Where Drummond has had everything thrown at him. Mike Hunter beat him for Attorney General. He beat John O'Connor. He was the front runner in this early on and had a very commanding lead. And every campaign and their IEs have run negative ads against him. So he's kind of taken all incoming. I don't know if there's anything else to say about him. I have no doubt that somebody will find something to say. If it's truthful or not, we don't know.
That's campaigning for you.
But that's what will happen here. But I think the real question in this runoff is if Mazzei can stand up to the pressure and the intense scrutiny that he's going to face.
You talked about that authenticity, and these two guys in particular. Nothing against either of them, but I don't see them either as the most charismatic. Shake your hands, kind of. Oh, this is my. They're different. Is that going to be a difference maker when they get out in the communities and talk to people one-on-one? People want a human connection. Are they going to get that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think Drummond's got probably a leg up there because he's run for AG. He's been campaigning for a long time. I mean, Mazzei's run for office too. He kind of knows the shtick and is out there. Who comes across more authentic is going to matter some degree. But I think, having Trump endorsement on one candidate, not the other, is still going to potentially weigh in there. And then, but I think we've seen Drummond use the news cycle more to his advantage. He is still Attorney General. He still has opportunities to do his job and get his name out there that Mazzei doesn't have. He's going to have to work a little bit harder to get those headlines.
Does that ever cross over then into using your office to campaign? That there's a line there that I've seen in several offices, quite frankly, where it's like, okay, is this you just doing this job, or is this you making a possible opponent look bad? And are people paying attention to that?
I think it's a fine line. I mean, the Ethics Commission has been paying closer attention to that this year than I've seen them do in the past, which I appreciate. But ultimately, there's a role of the media, too, and how the media chooses to cover these candidates as they campaign. You can't not cover them for doing their job, but there's also like a tipping point where it starts to feel self-promotional more than just them doing their job.
That is absolutely a conversation that our newsroom, and I'd say every newsroom in the state, is having as they pick as the election nears. You wouldn't believe the DMs and the tips we get. It's like, okay.
At what point is this performative? Yeah.
This is a campaign, and I don't work for your campaign. So it's going to be tricky. Okay, I believe we have Gittner Drummond's watch party right now live that we can check in on, hopefully. Okay, we do have the AG full. Okay, let's look at those AG results then. This is coming in on the Republican side. We were mentioning this race, a lot of money pouring into this particular race. Outside groups, dark money. We have John Eccles, Jeff Starling. You've probably seen some advertisements in this one. Do these early numbers surprise either of you gentlemen?
No, this is right in line with what the last polling I had, which finished Thursday. And again, I am working with the Eccles campaign. So these numbers are right in line with what we had there. And it looks like there's really not that much difference between absentee, early voting, and election day. Maybe a little bit closer on election day than the early voting was. So maybe it narrows a little bit. But when I look at this, we've got 13% of the voters, the precincts reporting. And so it's hard for the numbers to change much at this point.
We don't have a Democrat running in that office, or do we have a primary?
There will be a Democrat. Nick Coffey is a registered Democrat that'll be running, but he was the only Democrat that ran.
So we will not see him on the ballot until November.
Correct.
Okay, so is that one of those races where it's being decided in the Republican primary?
I think Nick Coffey's a pretty formidable candidate. I've met him a couple of times, and I'm excited to see him and whoever wins this race on stage together. I think. Especially for the role of Attorney General, they are an attorney. Their courtroom experience, their presence on a stage matters. And I think it'll be a really interesting debate for all voters.
Will those outside money groups be involved at that stage in the game?
Oh, undoubtedly.
If the race is close, yes. Yeah. If it's not, they won't.
They're not going to waste their money unless they think
and so that's this has been a very negative campaign. Both Starling and Eccles will have some work to do to reshape their images. Whoever wins this to go forward. I do think Nick Coffey is probably the cause celeb for Democrats in the state, probably who they believe is their best chance to win. But I would still think it's quite a long shot to do so.
It's a long way to go until November.
Yeah, it's a long way. And, that's a race where someone who's a relatively unknown person like Nick Coffey doesn't carry the same kind of baggage that someone like John Eccles does, who has been very front and center as floor leader in the House, and is someone who's been on TV every week and who's pretty well known to voters. So there's a different onus on each of those candidates to prove themselves to voters going into November.
But I will point out, I think it's been since 2002 since a Democrat won a statewide open seat in Oklahoma. So
It's
almost
similar
a
to
quarter
what
of a
you mentioned
century.
earlier, though. Sometimes with Eccles, you have that deeper playbook, that deeper bag, things that you can go back and get into.
It's a different challenge for each
certainly
candidate.
does.
Either you've got all the stuff in there or you're trying to show people who you are for the first time. Both can be pretty hard. All right, we're going to take another quick break as these results are coming in. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our election night coverage, everybody. We want to remind you as we go through all these races, those results start pouring in faster. Get to our Facebook and YouTube pages. Ask your questions there in the comments. We've got great experts here. We've got Pat McFerrin with us as well as Andy Moore. These guys have been on point all night. We haven't been able to throw a curveball at them they can't handle, so they'll be here for you with everything that you need. And we kind of just talked as we went to the break and came back. Now things are starting to get rolling. Now we're starting to get some momentum coming through with these results.
Fast.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. One thing we haven't talked about are these congressional races, including the seat to replace Markwayne Mullin in the Senate. So we've got some of those results. This looks like an easy win tonight for Kevin Hern. 69%. I believe is what my page, I just refreshed it. We might be up to 70% for Kevin Hern. So this is, we're not going to go to a runoff on this one, are we?
No, and I think the fact that the person getting third, you don't even have their picture, demonstrates a lot about the rest of the candidates in the race.
I'm sure we tried. I'm sure we tried.
So it's this race was over. at filing, certainly, or even before that, whenever some of the when Governor Stitt and others decided not to run.
We do want to, of course, mention her and there will be taking on Jasmine Thomas then in the general election if she pulls through tonight. Right now, she's got almost 41% of the vote.
Yeah, so it looks like that might go to a runoff.
Okay, what do you think about that, Andy? Have you been following this one?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by this. I thought Jim Priest would be doing a little bit better in there. I mean, Jasmine was probably the early mover in this. She announced early and even had a little social media ad going, and I think has been appealing to more of the progressive candidates, and that may be the difference here. I mean, this Jim Priest was, started out by running against Markwayne Mullin, and then when Mullin left to go run DHS, suddenly his campaign, everyone's campaign had to really pivot to a very different message. And so we'll see. It does look like it'll go to a runoff. And that'll be interesting come August.
On the Democrat side of this, right? So it's interesting when we talk about maybe for the governor's side, you've got Cindy Munson, who looks like she's going to pull ahead pretty big on this. For a race like this, where you see maybe a fractured base, especially in Oklahoma, where you see Republicans sort of reign supreme here, does that discourage Democrats potentially when they see a fractured base, or do they use this as, all right, like maybe we've seen this been a little split, we got to find a way to get together and rally here?
I think that a lot of these candidates are not super well known to a lot of voters. I mean, Jim Priest is known because he's been working in the nonprofit sector and has run for office before. Irvin Yen, of course, was in state senate for years and ran for governor last cycle.
Yeah, as a Republican, and then ran as an independent for governor.
Right.
Served as a Republican, now he's running as a Democrat.
Trying on some different hats,
and so I think just the lack of name recognition, and it's tough in this race to raise a bunch of money when it is often seen as a long shot campaign in the first place. And so I think there's more energy around races like the governor's race, whereas Pat said earlier in the broadcast that voters really want someone that they feel is closer to them, someone that's has the state's best interest.
That office feels like it should be more accessible. Whether it should or not, it does. It feels like I should be able to get somebody on the phone at the governor's office. If you're in Congress, I might not ever hear from you.
No, the line I've used before, and I think it is accurate at times. For a U.S. senator and a governor, you kind of want different things. For a governor, you want kind of a fatherly figure or someone that's going to take care of things, make the trains run on time, and you might want your crazy uncle for Senate. Because you want to, as Oklahomans, we want a bomb thrower, somebody up there that's going to shake things up, but we don't want to take that same risk when it comes to our local offices.
I haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's just something to get some attention or some eyes on the things that are going on in your state.
I don't want the bomb thrower to comfort me in a time of natural disaster.
You're right. You're right, and that's the difference. That's the difference. You
But-
want somebody who's going to make a name for themselves in D.C.,
Yeah.
but you want someone who's going to make the trains run on time here.
And that's the person who's willing to go up there and say something maybe a little off the wall to get the attention on the situation. Maybe the crazy uncle gets a little desperate, but then all of a sudden, now you've got the attention on the issues that you need.
We don't want all crazy uncles up there.
No, let's take a couple.
No, just ours, and then as long as everybody else can govern, we're fine.
Oh man, that's a terrible strategy.
So I do think, though, one of the looming questions here as we move forward into to elections in November is on the general side for the Democrats. We've sort of talked already tonight about how in specific races, even if they go full force, the Democrats do in some of these races, they're still at maybe a 10-point disadvantage. It's almost like a home field advantage.
I think it's closer to 20.
Yeah, so what would they have to do in that specific situation to kind of close that gap?
I don't think there's much they can do this election cycle. It's long-term, building up their party, doing things they can do. They're going to have to see national tides turn, but they have to hope the Republican stumbles. I mean, this is a race to 50, and a generic Republican starts at 53. It's really hard to lose a race to 50 when you start at 53.
So you're waiting for a colossal
You've got to
mishap, a misstep, a scandal.
But you've got to have people there. You've got to have them building. You've got to have them working. I started in this business in '92 when Republicans only had 35 of the 101 Republican House seats, and it doesn't happen overnight to build that and change that. And we ran a lot of candidates that we knew could not win just to build that infrastructure over time.
Is it hard to get candidates to run for office when you say, look, you really don't have a shot?
No.
It is, and it's because they get pushed out by their own common sense and maybe their family's common sense of saying we don't want to get involved in politics. And nobody likes to back someone they know is going to lose, right? And I think Pat makes a very strategic insight there that there is value, to your point earlier, there is value in running and losing sometimes because it does demonstrate that to your party base that there is someone who is willing to take it on just to help the party get forward and to be a voice for the issues that you care about.
When you build the infrastructure, these are the yard sign locations, these are the donors, these are the different things that we can do to build things. And I think you've seen the Democrats try to do that in the urban areas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Norman at least, to try to build that for the future. But it's a long ways coming.
Well, let's check in now with some of the congressional races, starting with District 1. What's going on here? Okay. This one made some headlines in the last few days. I was curious to see if we were going to see that impact the results. We did have a Trump-endorsed candidate here. That was Jackson Lohmeyer, who has come out and apologized for some missteps in his marriage, saying he's dealing with it privately. The question was, were any of his voters going to be turned off by that? Any thoughts? Kind of throwing that one out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a bit of a bombshell this weekend, or this last week, that came out, and I think everyone's kind of interested to see how it plays out tonight. This may be the one race that Trump endorsed that it doesn't go his way.
And would it be because of that bombshell?
I would think so.
Well, it looks like it was close. If you look at the early voting, which most of that happened before the bombshell came out, it looked like he was at about 35% of the early votes, maybe a little bit less if you put in the absentees. Where Tedford was still a very strong second. So now it's at 30-30 with Tedford actually leading on Election Day. So it looks like it makes it a 3 or 4 point difference at this point.
So what is this going to mean in a runoff? And is that kind of moral character issue going to impact voters?
I think so. Lohmeyer has not been able to raise money for his campaign. Club for Growth had come in and spent about $300,000 on television in the Tulsa market. But I don't know if they'll invest again now, knowing that he has this vulnerability. And Tedford has been a much more prolific fundraiser and a self-funder. And so I think if this race is even closer, then I think Tedford has to be considered the favorite.
Okay, and we do want to just say the AP has called Kevin Hern in the Republican side of that Senate race. So you called that one, Pat, early. You said this one's not going anywhere.
Oh, if they were only that easy.
You said there's no picture for number 3. This is over. So that's one we can call early on this evening.
Yeah, and to stay with where we are, we do, with our station, we do something called the question of the day, where we'll ask questions, some of them political, some of them not, to our viewers and viewers around the country to see what they think. And one of the questions was...
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, it was something up there.
Does a candidate's moral character influence how you vote? Now, our viewers, 96% of them said yes. We very rarely get such an overwhelming majority like that. So it kind of got our attention. Yeah. And is this one of those questions that people believe wholeheartedly? Yes, that's me, but then maybe when they vote, it tells a different story. Like they might believe that the moral character influences how they vote.
Well, and some people might, and I want to make very clear, I'm not on this side, but some people might say the moral character is he admitted his mistake. He's ready to move on.
He's righteous.
Yeah, for sure.
He's done these things, and we've all sinned or made mistakes.
What is your standard of moral character?
But it's how you define that. And generally, the people that I like, I think most voters are this way. The people I like get a little more leeway on that moral character than the people I don't like.
Isn't that true, right? If it's my guy, it's fine. If it's your guy, big mistake, he's out. Yeah. That is true. Does that surprise you that so many people would report that moral character is that important to them?
I'm not entirely surprised. I'm a little encouraged by that, but I think Pat's right. There may be a lot of people who say it influences my vote. I feel less good about voting for this person.
To me, as someone who designs questionnaires and questions for a living, I think it's really hard to say, oh, no, I don't care about moral character. Yeah, it's kind of hard to raise your head on the other side. No.
If we reworded this, perhaps we would get different answers.
You could, which is more important than someone's stance on the issues and their support of Donald Trump or their personal moral character. I think that's a much different type of question.
And there's also the question of how late this news came out, how many voters even heard about it before they went to the polls. I had people just today that had found out about it, and so there could be a lot of folks who voted and won't find out about it until Thursday, and then they may regret their vote.
Well, and along those lines, one of my favorite poll questions I've been asking is, has President Trump endorsed in the governor's race? As late as last Thursday, it was only at 65% of Republicans that could say he has endorsed Mike Mazzei.
So those of us watching,
everybody knows that. Yeah. No, that's not true. It takes a long time. That's why they have to buy so many TV ads. You've got to tell that message 9, 10, 11, 12 times until it gets into the consciousness of the folks.
Wow.
We do want to mention, too, we've got another race called. Josh Burkeen won that representative District 2. That is official, so we can lock that one in. That's another incumbent holding on here in Oklahoma.
I'm thinking District 3 won't be far behind.
And 4.
Frank Lucas, 72%. And 4, we've got Tom Cole commanding that 72% lead. You said they are sharing a watch party tonight, Pat?
That's my understanding,
I bet they're
yes.
having a pretty good time.
Yep. Much different for Cole this year than last year's was fun, but last year he had Paul Bondar, who spent $6 million against him.
Wild.
Much nicer not to have a funded opponent.
It is interesting, too. I mean, you see two guys like that who are long-standing here in Oklahoma. I mean, we've talked about Tom Cole a lot being a mainstay. When you just talk about guys that are willing to maybe say the things or do the things that you need to do for your state.
You think about his influence in Congress and what he can do for our state in terms of protecting our bases and federal funding and those sorts of things. It would be really hard to go up against somebody like that when they have so much power and influence.
Yeah,
So-
you just talk about the different, especially with regards to what's important to our state. You talk
Sure.
about the aerospace and things that are coming up there, and and all the military work that he does and the things he does to help out those communities. Yeah, it would have been that was a tough road to hoe there. That was going to be a tough one.
Absolutely.
Either way around it. Let's go back and take a look. Just want to keep going back
You
and
wanna go
making
back to
sure we
the governor's
update
race,
the governor
don't you?
one.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I was itching to get a peek of. Are you seeing anything new, guys? Let's see. We do know that Cindy Munson really having a great night. Probably not a whole lot of surprise for folks watching this one. And I believe that race has now been called by the AP. So Cindy Munson will be in that general election in November, taking on, geez, we don't know yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one all night.
Yeah, we won't know until August 25th.
Oh, come on. We won't know for sure. You're right. But hopefully we'll know who the two people are in that runoff within the next few hours. And you mentioned earlier, if you're Cindy Munson, who are you hoping is your opponent on the Republican side?
Given the choices it looks like now, I mean, let's. If you got somebody at the watch party, just ask her directly, probably. But I think Mike Mazie is probably who I'd rather run against.
Okay. All right, let's check in. We want to look at the Republican results now for the governor. As we mentioned, kind of Mazie and Gintner taking the top spots so far this evening. I imagine that's still the case. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we've got Drummond at about 26%, Mazie at 25%. Looks like then Chip Keating in a relatively distant third at 18%. So I think that is going to be those two. I haven't seen the breakdown by counties yet to see how that's going. A little bit of a surprise given the Trump endorsement that Drummond is this close right now. I think most observers thought Mazie was in first. And again, it's so close here. We're only talking about 1,000 votes or 1,300 votes with another 160,000 votes out there.
Now, if I'd shown both of you gentlemen this graphic without McCall on it a month or two ago, would that have surprised you?
I was just about to say, I think the real story here is I almost feel a little bit bad for McCall here. That he was a clear front runner and up there with Drummond. I think a lot of people figured it would be Drummond and McCall going into this runoff, especially longest serving speaker I think in state history, and got out early with some pretty very notable ads.
It was the banana ad. It got everybody's attention.
Again, a local ad that had far-reaching. I had national colleagues mention it to me, and so I think for him to fade it down to fifth place now, he's got to be really kind of questioning some of his campaign decisions along the way.
Well, Pat, speak to that. What do you think the mistake was on his campaign's part to let this happen?
Given he built his entire campaign, I think, on kind of a Trumpian base, and so we saw his support collapse in half the minute Trump endorsed Mazie. And
that was just a death
I think that's if you build it there and then that's rug is yanked out from underneath you, I think that's really what happened.
And what do you think about, we've seen a lot of, we had Rob out there asking the candidates, so much talk now, the swell building, about data centers, about the aluminum smelter plant. These are now issues that these candidates are having to answer to, and some have kind of moved positions on them. Is that going to continue into the runoff discussion?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep hearing about that smelter plant. We're going to keep hearing about data centers. We're going to keep hearing about where is the line between Oklahoma and national interests, and is our governor or the nominees for governor doing what is in the best interest of the state and of the local people, right? The smelter issue has come up where it has been a very top-down, forced issue that the locals have screamed that they don't want that, and so you see this tension between local people who you believe, you got to believe, are going to be voting for their best interests, and that might not be what the talking point is for the governor or the governor's nominee.
How do you advise a candidate, Pat, on those issues when they're asked about that? Kind of puts them in a tough spot.
Well, I think they have to be authentic for who they are and what they want to be is the key thing to come across. And I think the challenge Mazie has is that he's changed his mind on it from time to time.
So that consistency is going to get
it's
you
really vital
when you're having to jump back and forth.
So when you look at this and we talk about maybe how it didn't quite go the way McCall wanted it to, and he had his pitfalls there, we do have, when you look at Gettner Drummond kind of leading this thing without the Trump endorsement, what is he doing so right that, I mean, that's kind of a thing where you said without the Trump endorsement in Oklahoma, you're going to find a way to get out in front. What do we think he's doing that's propelled him to level or even a little over the top here?
I think Drummond's had a pretty consistent message that feels pretty authentic to who he is for a lot of voters, right? He's really run on that, rancher, law and order, the ads with him in a truck and his gun or on a horse and the hat, and it's like the archetype of what I would craft for a campaign for AG, given his background as a fighter pilot, all that stuff. Like he knew the story he needed to tell. He's been telling it pretty consistently. He hasn't, like Mazie, flip-flopped on some issues, so he doesn't have those same kind of liabilities out there that we know of yet.
You mentioned these candidates are going to stick with this really hard right messaging through the runoffs. Will we see a different Gettner Drummond? Let's say he earns that Republican nomination in a general. Will we see him shift maybe a little more center?
Having run a campaign against Gettner Drummond before, I don't think he's a guy that changes much. He is who he is, and he's comfortable with who he is.
So a lot of voters will probably appreciate that.
So I don't see him changing much. The reality is, again, in this state, I don't think you have to very much.
Well, let's think about it maybe this way and kind of rephrase it and reshape the lens. When you get away a little bit from that rhetoric and you've got to start bringing in some of the substance, right? It's one thing to say, I want to rework the way schools are doing this, or I want to make sure that we're inviting business opportunities here. We got to start getting into the how, right? So it's not just as easy as being like, this is the kind of stuff that we're all doing, I want to do this too. Now you got to have some substance behind it. Are there any of these candidates maybe that are up here towards the front that might have to kind of dig in? I mean, we talked about Mazie flip-flopping, but are there anyone who you see maybe lose some of that support?
Do they just have concepts of a plan versus a plan?
Any kind of meat to it?
Well, we've got 2 months of scrutiny. It's one of the at times you want things to just be over after a primary, but the scrutiny of a runoff, can actually lead to more discussions and people having more information as they make that final decision.
More information is always a good thing for voters, but if nobody
well, they
can
don't say that when they're getting their direct mail.
That's true.
Last week.
But with
yes.
the primaries just being such a low turnout, and it's kind of disheartening to hear that. If we had been able to vote on open primaries, would all this look different tonight?
If open primaries were already in effect,
correct.
Absolutely. I mean, you'd have 500,000 Oklahomans who had a say in this that didn't get to vote on any candidates today. And so that's a lot of voters who, if even half of them showed up, even a quarter of them showed up, you could potentially sway
10%.
some of these, or 10%. Yeah. That it could really sway, I think, the outcome of some of these elections.
There would be different front runners?
Well, I think Drummond would probably still benefit in some ways. But I think some of the other candidates in the governor's race in particular might shake out a little bit differently. And I think going down the ballot, some of these other races
you might have had an entirely different group of candidates running.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really go back and predict what would have happened, and people put together different campagns. So,
but this is the system we're going to be stuck with now for the foreseeable future. Is that a good thing?
Well, Andy and I don't agree on a lot of things. This is one that we do.
You do agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Pat's right that open primaries changes the incentives that candidates face when they're running, right? Because you'd be accountable to all voters, not just
the hard primary voters.
Right, and the state question 836, as it was proposed, would open up so that everybody gets to vote in every race. All the candidates would be there, so we'd see all the Republican candidates and all the Democrat candidates and independents and libertarians all on the same ballot. You get to pick your same one. Well, then you're not just campaigning towards the hard right or the hard left. You're campaigning to everybody, and that's a very different message.
It's about building coalitions then instead of dividing and finding motivating your own folks.
All right, well, glad to hear some common ground there, even though it's not happening. It didn't happen tonight, and we're staying with the same system we have. But we will be learning a lot more about these candidates as we move forward towards that runoff. I believe we have another live shot to get to.
Yeah, we got Rob Hagan here who's live at Chip Keating's campaign here, or watch party, I should say. Rob, how are things going out there?
Well, Adam, Wendy, people are still in high spirits here. As you can see, it's still a packed room during this watch party, 34 stories up here at the Petroleum Club. Now, the numbers were just released showing Chip Keating is trailing in third place right now, but the numbers are still being counted as we speak. It could, it's a slight margin, but he still could make some gains here. Now, Chip Keating has outlined his vision for Oklahoma. He says that he wants to shut down what he calls Oklahoma's illicit drug crisis. Now, what he's speaking of are the illegal grow operations that have been plaguing the state. It's something that Gentner Drummond has also built his campaign on. He also says that, like most of the campaigns in this race, he wants to try and combat the low education ranking. Now, according to Wallet Hub back in March, the education ranking put us at 50th in education in the nation. But I did a report yesterday from data from the Annie E.C. Clark Foundation that puts us at 48th in the nation for education. Now, a lot of these campaigns are using that as their promise to get those votes in so that they could be the next governor. Now, another thing Chip Keating has mentioned is Governor Stitt's neutrality during his campaign. He says he wants to take more of a stance as a Republican in this race. I will continue to provide you more updates once they're made available. Until then, live at the Petroleum Club, Rob Hagan, Fox 25 News.
All right. One of our many Republican contenders that gubernatorial seat. Thank you, Rob. In the meantime, we're watching some of these state Senate races. A number of our incumbents were targeted with primary challenges from groups that said, we don't like the job we're doing. Are they successful this evening?
It looks like right now where the votes are, it looks like what I call the governing coalition, the Lottie Paxton group, looks like they're having a really good night. There were 7 legislators targeted by a group, Doge, Oklahoma, which had a lot of the OK2A folks as well, the Second Amendment groups, and others were targeting them, and they look like they're doing really well. Just run down them real quick. District 2, Claremore area, Allie Seifrid, about half the vote in, she's at 66%. Tom Woods in the northeast part of the state, Adair County at 61 with closer to 75% in. Bill Coleman, it's Osage County, DeKay County and Ponca City at 54% with about half the vote in. Todd Gallagher, 71% in the Creek County area.
And these were pretty hardcore social media attacks on these folks. And I do know during the legislative session, they were kind of threatened, like, hey, if you do X, Y, Z, you will have a challenger.
Yeah, and they all pointed to the Greg McCourtney defeat 2 years ago and the Wallace Collins defeat. But these look, Chuck Hall, the appropriations chairman, was one I think most people were worried about. He's at 56% now, with about 70% of the vote in, looks good. It looks like these are going well. And Grant Green, probably the most competitive race in the state.
That one looks
Lincoln
close.
County, yeah, he's at 53% with about 61% in. But right now it looks like it could be a clean sweep. In the southwest part, looks like he's going to be forced into a runoff. Jack Stewart, another aligned Freedom Caucus aligned candidate in Yukon, looks like he's going to be forced into a runoff, as will Dana Prieto out of Owasso. So it looks like 3 of the Freedom Caucus folks are going to be forced into runoffs, and none of the challenged incumbents look like they have any. Look like they're going down at this point.
Well, let's hear from one of our gubernatorial candidates. I believe Jake Merrick has taken the microphone at his watch party. Let's listen in.
Please help yourself to more food. Just do it.
The governor there, C.W. Shannon at 53. Eccles leading the.
All right, so we are watching Jake Merrick at his watch party. Looks like he's doing what we're doing, hitting refresh.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what's going on.
At last check, he is holding 15% of the vote this evening, trailing behind Gentner Drummond, who's in the lead, and Mike Mazzei right behind him, 25 and 24%. Does Merrick have a shot in this at any chance of a runoff at this point? What do you think?
No, the numbers are. It's more than half the votes in. I think it's pretty well set.
So you might expect to hear some sort of concession speech here shortly?
Well, that's a personal choice by former Senator Merrick. If some people cling on to times longer than others do, so we'll see what he decides.
Can I just backtrack really quick, Pat, and ask you a question about, we talked about some of the Freedom Caucus challengers. What do you think that means when those incumbents hold on? What do you think that means for the future of the party, right? You saw a little fracturing as we kind of went through the session.
Yeah.
Some people who want some things done a little bit differently. When you see these results that speak for themselves.
If these hold, I think you're going to see a much more efficient state Senate next cycle.
Less infighting?
Less infighting, because if you give the pro tem 3 or 4 more votes than he had before, and you see that the incumbents that go down are those that were on the Freedom Caucus, that were on the obstructionist side, it's going to encourage those that were kind of in the middle to continue to be on the governing side. So I think this could be a very, very good night for the leadership group.
Yeah, it just makes it a different session when you kind of walk in there and realize everybody's at least going to be on the same page for now,
Right.
until we get into the session and get a whole other laundry list of issues.
One thing I'll point out, a little interesting here, just one of the odd races we weren't looking at all, Tom Gann from Pryor, who's probably the leading opponent to data centers, even though he's got the big Google facility there at Mid-America, he's in a very close race. He's one of the few House incumbents. Now, he's up 52 to 48. Not all the votes are in, so that could change a little bit here.
He's been in that seat for some time.
He has been, and he's considered. He's one of the.
He's made a name.
He's one of the few House members that's a member of the Freedom Caucus.
And he does
so
not
it's very
take any
interesting
money.
that-
He doesn't take lobbyist money. He's just very clear about the lines and drawing those boundaries. So do you see that? I mean, he's in jeopardy tonight?
Well, I don't think I can say he's in jeopardy yet, but it's much closer, and nobody was looking at that. I don't know that there were many people giving his opponent much of a shot. So I think it's really a referendum on Tom Gann in that area. So maybe some of the anti-data center stuff's a little overblown when I see that.
And this is a good race to point out about turnout, right? Right now, so far there have been 4,300 votes tallied. Every state house represents about 40,000 people. So this is a very small number of voters that are making very consequential decisions.
And you only need half of those to win.
Right, and you only need half of those to win. And so when a race is being decided by literally just a couple of hundred votes, to everyone who says my vote doesn't matter, it really does. It definitely doesn't matter if you don't show up. But when you do show up, you may come down to a race like this, and even the governor's race. You're seeing a couple of front runners that are separated by not that many votes when you think about the number of people in this state that they're representing.
And of course, we have to mention, we talked about incumbents on the line tonight. Todd Russ, our current state treasurer, just getting walloped tonight by our state auditor, Cindy Bird, running for that seat. 62%, I believe Cindy now has, to his 38%. You guys ready to call this one, or are we still waiting?
Yeah, you can call it at this point, yes.
All right, we're going to have a new state treasurer.
We call AP, and I think they've left the state.
We'll put the Pat
but
stamp on it. We're not allowed to call races, but Pat, you know what? You and Andy, we'll let you do it. All right, you see there, this was a very much talked about race here recent weeks, just mainly because Cindy jumping into that race was a surprise to many. She'd been campaigning for lieutenant governor, and then on filing day, shocked folks by instead switching over to the state treasurer's race. And taking Todd on a run for his money, kind of caught him flat-footed, as you said, Adam.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it as those results keep coming in. And shifting it over a little bit, back to the state question 832, as we checked in on that early, and now we're starting to get more results in on that as well. It seems that gap has widened, more percentage going to the no side of that. So we continue to see where those votes come in. I think that's an important point from Pat that we've had as we've talked about it. It's really going to depend on some of the turnout that you get in some of those fringe areas that usually have some of the smaller numbers.
Yeah, State Chamber pretty outspoken on this one. We also heard leading up to the election, farmers worried about their exemption going away and talking about the issues that might cause. What was the messaging you think that really helped shift the no votes in favor of this one?
Well, I think there are two. One is the inflation issue. Affordability is a top issue that we have right now. I think that's a real big concern. Number two is there is a fear, I think, for AI, technology, these kind of things overtaking these types of jobs. People don't like the kiosk when they go to order something, those kind of things. But what's fascinating to me is if you look at the state map, at this point, there's still votes to come in. 3 counties are supportive, 74 are opposed. Oklahoma, Cleveland, and Tulsa counties are supportive.
That's not a shock.
Oklahoma County is at 64% in favor. Cleveland at 54, Tulsa at 59. But if you just look around, McCurtain County, no is 72. Nowata County, no is 71. Look at the Panhandle at 75%.
So it's very regional. Do you expect that, Andy?
Somewhat. I mean, I think several years ago there was a movement to increase the minimum wage in Oklahoma City, and the legislature stepped in and said you can't do that. They passed a bill to prohibit cities from passing a minimum wage that was higher than the state minimum wage, and I think this is exactly why. That they worried that the metropolitan areas might choose to raise the minimum wage and thus be more enticing to workers who wanted to do the same job for more money. As Pat said earlier, most of these counties, the votes have been counted. The precincts have reported on this, but there's still quite a few precincts in Oklahoma and Tulsa County that are outstanding. So the gap may close a little bit. I don't know if there's enough to close it all the way, but I think it'll definitely close some.
Yeah, you early on predicted this was going to go no.
I told friends going into tonight that I wouldn't be surprised if it was pretty close either way. It was a really tough thing to know. I live in Oklahoma City, and so I'm kind of subject to the winds of what's the prevailing sentiment here. But even as I have traveled around some over the last few months, I think there's a lot of people who wish it was a little bit higher, but weren't sure that $15 was the right number. And I think there's always the option for federal intervention here, right? The federal government hasn't raised their minimum wage. That's why this measure was on the ballot. And so, in a couple of years, we'll have another presidential election. The current president is not eligible to run again, so we'll have a new president. And who knows what happens with Congress coming up this November. We may have a changing tide there.
Yeah, the quick math in my head says that it's going to fail. I do think it'll get closer still. There are 600 precincts left out. 400 of those are in Oklahoma and Tulsa counties. So 2/3 of the vote, and those are generally larger precincts as well. So I do think that it will narrow given what we're seeing from those other precincts.
Do we want to take a look back at the race for state superintendent? That was another one we were watching. We checked in with Adam Pugh's watch party early on. Was not clear early in the evening who the two moving on to a runoff would be, and it still looks pretty darn close. Take a look at that. We're not seeing Pugh, though, in even one of those top 4 spots.
Yeah, he's just at 11% here at this point. So I think it's tough for him to make this. I think the real question here is between Franklin and Cox. Between Taylor and Cox, who gets there, because it's less than 1,700 votes separating 1,300 votes separating the two of them at this point in time.
And has the Democratic side been called? Let's take a look at that. It looks like we've got Janetti Marshall, 56% as of right now, taking on Craig McVeigh. Okay, so that's one we're still watching.
Yeah, and again, a lot of the precincts that are still outstanding are in Oklahoma and Tulsa County, and so those are typically the more progressive zones in the state, and so the turnout there is going to be a big influence on who ultimately wins this race, given how close
Was
it
this
is.
a race you think that brought people to the polls today, just because that position now is been so publicized?
I mean, I think Pat probably knows better, but public education has been a highly motivating issue for a lot of Oklahomans for a long time. And, in the Facebook groups that I'm in, and you see a ton of conversation around this. The Rural Schools Coalition has really been putting out a lot of information about all the candidates. And
yeah, but they were really supportive of Craig McVeigh, which is a little surprising here.
That was their guy on that side.
I will tell you, I don't think that there was very much name recognition on the Democrat primary here at all on this. And I think what this tells me is that there's a preference for a female candidate in a Democrat primary, which is something that we've seen in other states. And so I really think Craig's inability to difference himself from that. So what I'm seeing here is really that 7-8 point Democrat advantage that a female has in a Democrat primary. It's about 4 points in a Republican primary, by the way. Even guys recognize that women really should be in charge.
Does that matter if it's a certain race? Like in terms of education, maybe there's an unconscious bias to put a woman in there, but let's say a race for treasurer, we might subconsciously think I want a man in there.
Yeah, I don't believe there's ever been a male, before Ryan Walters, there was never a male that won the state superintendent of schools race in Oklahoma.
So perhaps even deep down, without consciously thinking about it, we picture who should be in there.
Yeah. And I don't know that most voters even know the race of some of these candidates, but I think it's interesting that both on the Democratic and the Republican race for superintendent, that non-white candidates are in the either first or second place. That was also historically significant.
Wow.
All right, so who do you see, let's say you are the Democratic candidate for superintendent. Who do you want to face off against in November?
Well, if it's James Taylor, that's who you want. James Taylor has been a perennial candidate. He's run against Tom Cole 3 or 4 times in the primary down there. Is a pretty far-right candidate. Is a history teacher, high school history teacher. But you know, he's never been able to raise any money, hasn't garnered much. So I think he would be who you would prefer. I think if it's him and Franklin, Franklin probably coalesces a group there behind him.
Well, you mentioned the teacher groups online that have been coming out and picking their candidates.
Like the rural schools, I think they gave an A to
Mm-hmm.
both Franklin and McVeigh, and an F to everybody else.
Oh, okay. It's quite the scale. Okay.
It sounds like we got a couple more races that have been called. Tom Cole and Frank Lucas, they have been called as winning their races, so they'll be back for another run. Didn't sound like anything that was a surprise to anybody at the table here, especially as we got going. When you're Tom Cole, right, we talked about sort of the contrast between how this was with the last election and the current. Got to be nice to know that he's back essentially in his majority and really back in his bag, as they'd say.
Yeah, I think so. Now, he will have a November election here, but again, it's a pretty Republican state, even if the national tide's going the other direction. And the one thing about Tom is he has never taken a race for granted. In fact, on this campaign team, we often discourage him from spending money, but he's like, no, I want to take nothing for granted.
He's not going to be caught flat-footed.
He will never be caught flat-footed.
All right, I think that's the lesson we have learned.
Yeah, get ready for the race.
Well, as we've seen, things are changing really fast, but it looks like all of your predictions are kind of shaping out as we're watching these numbers continue to roll in. We're going to keep analyzing them for you. We're going to be back on YouTube and on KOCB,
That's
I
right.
think, at 9 o'clock.
Yep, at 9 o'clock. And also, you've got the Fox 25 News app. You can always download that. You'll get those updates sent right to your phone, those push alerts as those races are called. We'll make sure you are not left without any of the information from tonight.
And maybe you want to watch a little soccer, watch a
There you
little
go.
World Cup action. We'll have you covered there too. We'll be on with the late edition on Fox 25 right after the game. Big thanks to our political experts. Andy, Pat, you guys are phenomenal at breaking all this down and making it interesting and maybe fun, dare I say? A little fun?
Certainly digestible, right? It's
Digestible.
definitely fun, but like for folks, I know if people are going to watch this and they're like, I don't know what's going on, but I want to know who won. You guys do a great job of taking some stuff that might be over a lot of people's heads and making it something they can really dig into and understand, which is a big deal.
Thank you for joining us.